Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Study Various Majors in the United States series. Today, we will focus on study psychology, research, and clinical in the United States. My name is Hani, and I am the Education USA advisor in the Fulbright Commission. And my special guest today is Autumn, who is a Fulbright grantee and an English teaching assistant in the Czech Republic. Hi, Autumn. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Like Hani said, I'm just gonna tell you a bit about what I know about psychology and my experience in the field so far. So I've been both in research and clinical. And I now have my master's degree in clinical, but I'll tell you more about my journey in detail along the way.
Cool.
So, uh, why people study psychology and maybe some benefits that you can get from studying it. So one is for improved flexibility, openness, understanding people. I think some people know that they're going to get this, others don't, but I think that's really common, is that it helps you understand other people and their perspectives better. You're prepared for a variety of career opportunities. It's not like going to school to be a teacher in that you would graduate and then know, okay, now I'm going to teach, and that's kind of that, right? Like with psychology, with a bachelor's degree in psychology, you have a lot of options, but that also means you have to make choices. So it's not as like clear cut once you graduate, but that can be a good thing. And then, yeah, you have a lot of potential with this to improve the lives of others. Basically, every direction you can go with psychology is going to be doing that in some way, which is, I think, a really big positive and what draws a lot of people. And then it's very interesting. We all hear so much pop psychology, like the personality tests and the attachment styles and all these things we hear like in the media. And so you get to like really know which of that is valid and the science behind those things. And so that's very interesting. Yes. And so when you're actually studying psychology at the bachelor's level, you are for sure going to take these bolded classes. That's pretty standard, pretty like as a base kind of like needed. So you're going to just learn about psychology in general, but you're also going to learn about research methods and statistics, how to know if a study is good, how to do research. Diversity is really important, and just the history of psychology. But then from there, you can take like a bunch of different types. Like some universities have like specializations, sort of. Some don't. So my psychology degree was general. And so I just took these kind of like general classes in psychology, whatever I felt like was interesting. And so that could be different like things from personality or counseling. There's social psychology, there's neuroscience. So just depends on like what you're most interested in, but I think it's hard to know until you try these different classes. So
For sure. What was the hardest class that you had during your bachelor's?
Honestly, I would say statistics. Not because, honestly, not because it was actually the hardest class, but it's because I took it my very first semester. And I think I wasn't ready for that yet. Like later I took neuroscience, and I think that like factually that's a harder class. Like I think that actually was harder, but I was more prepared, and like I knew how to study already for like university and things like that. So
So
yeah.
cool.
Okay, so for school considerations, I have given some universities that are like, if you look up a list of top psychology universities, like these will come up, but I don't really want to give you like honestly, these aren't like necessarily my recommendations or anything. They're just examples, but when you're looking for a like school to study psychology at, take a look and see if they have a PhD program, because if they do, they're probably doing more research and they have grad students who can also help train you. So that is a really good thing to have access to. And then also take a peek at what the professors are researching and if anything they're researching interests you. But honestly, at the bachelor's level, I really do think that's what's more important is how the fit is for you, like at the university, how every university I think has a sort of feeling to it. And when you're at the bachelor's level, I think that that's really important. You want to feel supported and safe, especially if you're going abroad to go to a university. So I would focus a lot on that and a lot on like everything else they have to offer, because honestly, like most people I know, if they knew what they wanted to study going into university, they changed their mind. So that's just something to keep in mind. You always could change your mind. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you might take a class in something else and really love it. So I wouldn't base your decision entirely on the psychology department, is my point. But
how many applications did you send back then when you applied for your bachelor's degree? Do you remember?
I don't. It was a bit longer ago for me than I think some of the other ETAs, but it was like less than 10, because honestly, for me, I knew I was staying in my state. So I and in the end it was actually University of Michigan was one, and then Michigan State, and then Eastern Michigan. And I got a full ride scholarship to Eastern Michigan. And so that, and then also like I was really choosing between that and U of M. Those were like my two in the end. Like I got in and I liked them both kind of, but I went on a tour of U of M and I didn't feel good there. I didn't feel as like supported, and I felt like it was a little bit more like the people at Eastern were a little bit more like humble and like fit the feeling I wanted better. So I ended up going there. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. So psychology is a lot more than just therapy. And I really want you to know that, because so many people, when they hear, oh, you're studying psychology, you must want to be a therapist, but that is not the only option. I mean, yeah, there are other options, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, right after your bachelor's degree, you could do behavior therapy, which is working with children with autism. You could be a research assistant. You could be a substance use group leader, which means that you are helping clients with substance use issues as more of like a, what's the word? Like not necessarily like as a therapist would, but more as like a additional support below the therapist kind of. And also you can be an assessment clinician, which means that people come in, you can, like, the DSM, which is how we diagnose people, and you can learn how to basically just assess where they're at and provide like a preliminary diagnosis and like recommendations for services after that. So that's what that would be. Yeah.
If you decide to study psychology, you always end up with the degree Bachelor of Science. Is that right? Or can you have something else?
I think you can have something else. It depends what, like, how do I say, like, what sort of like route you take with your classes. But I would, like, usually if you are going to end up with a Bachelor of Arts, it would be like, what I've seen is that it would be a choice that you would make, like where you'd say, okay, I don't want to do a thesis, and I like want to take like, I don't know, these more, like, for example, if you wanted to go into like the human resources type of things, right, then maybe you wouldn't need to get a BS, but I think the BS is like more expected in psychology.
Fair enough.
Like the psychology, one thing about the field is I think that it's a lot more research heavy than people necessarily like realize. There's a lot of value placed on like knowing research, being able to do it, and so the science aspect is really big with it. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so with a master's degree or PhD, I think I'm fairly certain all the jobs I'm about to show you, except professor, you can do with a master's degree, but with a PhD, you'll be like higher up and maybe have a bit more like wiggle room with things. But yeah, you can be a therapist, of course. You can be an industrial organizational psychologist, which is helping people in their workplace like function better. So you'd like work with the human resources there. Human factors, which is like this is the one I understand the least, but generally speaking, it's like you're helping think about like a space and how to make it the most open for people, how to make user interface work the best, like basically how people interact with their environment and how to make it the most like streamlined, comfortable. Like that is the general idea, but it could be anything along those lines. And health psychology, professor, and yeah, you usually do need a PhD for that one. And researcher also, like if you want to lead a lab, you should probably have a PhD.
Did you write a thesis for your bachelor's and master's?
Both, yeah.
What was it focused on?
My bachelor's was focused on social exclusion and how like how important like inclusion is, and then how can we help with it. So I did an experiment actually. I was trying to see if like hearing other people and how they coped with like these experiences, if it helped them feel better when they experience this sort of thing. And then my master's was, generally speaking, it was about awe, with the emotion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Yes. And okay, so yeah, now I'll tell you a bit about my journey. So the first like psychology related job I did was I was a camp counselor before I started undergrad. And then in undergrad, I worked as a behavior technician, so working with children with autism, doing therapy that way. And then I was also at the same time doing research. And at that point, I thought that I would want to be a professor, and I thought that I did not want to be a therapist. And then COVID happened, and I took a gap year, and I really didn't know. I kind of like reevaluated things, and I was applying to many different types of programs. And ultimately, when I got into the counseling programs, I realized like those were the ones that felt the most like in line with what I actually wanted and who I actually was. So I decided to go with those. But I also am working on applying for PhDs now. So probably I will also end up with a PhD and be a professor too. So maybe it'll be both now, but yeah.
It's really cool. I just wanted to share with the students who are watching, who are interested in psychology. Guys, I know that it can be difficult, especially depending on the school that you're coming from. Sometimes you feel like you don't have as many opportunities in your extra or in your leisure time. So you see that Autumn here was a camp counselor. That's something that's available to you throughout the summer. You can definitely participate in a summer camp and help out. You can definitely help, like babysit or something that you can later put into your application and would kind of shine there. You can also take an AP class, which is advanced placement. If you need any guidance or help, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to connect you with Autumn, and we'll figure out something to make your application special.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I'm just thinking about the students I know here, and I think that if a student is interested in psychology, they're probably doing things related to it more than they realize,
Oh,
just
that's
help.
why I'm gonna connect them with you because you
Yeah.
can point it, like I think that we all kind of come across, psychology in our daily lives. It's just we don't realize that. So if you can help them kind of, you know, point it out in their daily life, that would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay. So for applying, we're right on, like, we keep being on the topic that we're about to talk about, which is great. So yeah, for applying, the biggest thing I think you can do, honestly, like if you know that you're going to want to study in America and it, ahead of time, is really practice your writing, really hone your writing skills, focus on it. And yeah, like that is going to be such a big thing, not just when you're applying, but even after. It's just such a huge part of education in the US, and in your applications, they really want to see that you can write well and that you can craft a story. So yeah, they really want to see that. It goes a long way. It also goes a long way for scholarships. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And then yeah, clinical experience. And it doesn't have to be like anything crazy like these. Like suicide hotline is pretty intense, especially for a high schooler. Like really, really, I just want to emphasize, like, most people don't do these, like a lot of these things, until university. So if you did it before university, it would be extra impressive, but you don't have to do it to get in necessarily. So yeah, those are just like some little bonus things you could do. And another bonus thing you could get involved in or read some studies, familiarize yourself with areas of psychology. So you could read about some of the big researchers or some of the big people who have been in psychology. You could watch some TED Talks. Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure if you're interested in this, you would find that interesting anyway. So yeah, those are options. This podcast, The Happiness Lab, it's really fun to listen to and interesting. So you could listen to that one. You could learn about these studies. If you study psychology, you will learn about these studies eventually, and maybe you already have, but yeah, these are ones to take a look at. Okay, so yeah, you can reach out to me with any questions. And
you can reach out to me. Education USA is here and we provide free services. I can help you with navigating, the school research. I'm happy to connect you with Autumn and you can discuss your choices with her. Maybe she knows someone at that institution. Feel free. That's also different a little bit. Feel free to reach out to the university staff, like send them an email and ask them like a smart question, not a question you can Google in 5 seconds, but if you can show your interest and if you have any questions, if you would like to connect with an international student and ask about that vibe or scholarship opportunities, please do so. And I'm happy to proofread your emails, or I'm happy to advise how to approach the university staff and so forth. So here is my email address. You can also reach out to me via social media, and I am happy to help with anything. So thank you so much for joining today. Autumn, thank you so much for walking us through psychology major. And guys, please be in touch. Thank you.